Headline: Blinken stranded after Boeing 737 breaks down on Davos trip. And guys, I don't know if I should be laughing or crying. And honestly, this really pisses me off. This headline, and the basic gist of it is I feel like this represents everything wrong in the USA. Right now. I mean, read it. Blinken stranded after Boeing 737 breaks down on Davos trip. So what's wrong with this? So one is the USA, we can't even make freaking planes that work. I mean, if that doesn't piss you off, and I mean, like I said, I don't know if you're laughing or crying, but this is fundamental to what we're supposed to be good at, right? We're supposed to be good at making stuff. I mean, it's supposed to be. And moreover, why is our Secretary of State, this is just reality, going around the world trying to garner support for two wars, right? One in Europe, one in the Middle East. And why can't we have a plane that freaking works? Like I said, I don't know if I should be laughing or crying. I mean, it's just, it's horrible. Moreover, if you've been following this story, I haven't been covering it that much, but I just had to mention it today because we can't even send our Secretary of State around, which I don't even want to be sending him around anyway, trying to get support for two wars that I don't think we need to be spending so much money on. I mean, it's so ridiculous. If you guys don't know, the Boeing, they had some problem with their jet. There was a crash, and then they all got grounded. This headline I thought was pretty funny. We're stuck with the 737 MAX, like it or not. And moreover, I saw a documentary called Downfall on Boeing. This was a couple of years ago. If you haven't seen it, check it out. This is the basic gist of it, is that Boeing was putting profits over people's lives. That's the basic gist of it. And it kind of also exposed the Wall Street corruption, again, profit over people's lives. And it's embarrassing. I don't know else the way to say it. And like I said, I make jokes about this stuff, but honestly, the whole thing is a mess. Moreover, I want to cover a lot of different news today because there's so many topics that are going on, and the world is increasingly more difficult to navigate. So hopefully you come back to this channel and we'll try to do it together. I mentioned this in the prior video regarding China missing their fourth quarter GDP. The basic gist of it is that they're facing a slowdown, and it is hard to avoid. I mean, if you read this headline here, this will make sense. China's population shrinks some more, decrease in births, increase in deaths in 2023. This is a headline on January 16th, so just a couple days ago. And this is something that is hard to avoid, right? If China is shrinking, essentially, like, how are we going to have economic growth? Answer: we're not. It's like it's not going to happen. And it's not just China; it's around the world. I read a report recently, and this was by the U.S. Census Bureau. The U.S. population is going to peak, at least as current projections, around 2070. So 50 years from now, we'll peak and then actually go into population decline a bit. Past say 40, 50 years, it's hard to predict exactly, but you can get a general sense of birth rate, death rate. You have a general sense of where things are going. Moreover, right, we've been printing money for years, and now that we're trying to slow things down because of inflation and stuff like that. I mean, it's just all these signs are warning signs, right? So that's why I try to show you guys all the news all the time. Moreover, this was actually a really funny headline as well. So this one, I guess, is a laughing or crying one. We'll read it together. Schwab falls as CEO flags most challenging time since 2000. And the quote is, "No one at the firm is kidding themselves." Moreover, guys, I've seen this play out a couple of times in my life. If you don't know, I'm pushing 50, and I lived through the dot-com bubble. I lived through the 08-09 crash, and it is what it is, right? This happens every now and then. It's just sort of how our system works. We get overheated, we crash, and we come right on back, and we get overheated, we crash, come right on back. It goes in cycles. And I want to mention, if you haven't checked out a copy of my book, please do. It's called Positive Angle. And a lot of what I write about my book is making it through these cycles and staying positive, because you're not going to be surprised by these headwinds that come. It's just part of the game of life, guys. So check out my book. And I don't hard pitch it that much, but it's a good book, and I'd like you to check it out. Moreover, this was actually the quote from Schwab. No one at Schwab is kidding themselves that everything is perfect right now. And this is from the CEO, Walt Bettinger. And here's more quote. "Perhaps it was the most challenging time at my time at Schwab. Certainly the most challenging since the bursting of the internet bubble in 2000, and essentially things are slowing. It's something like new assets fell 48%, bank deposits down 21%, and I guess the stock was down like 7%, and then it came back. But it's been really, really volatile. Moreover, this is actually a really interesting story. I've mentioned this stuff before on the channel, but I'm just mentioning it again. So the Biden people have been going after junk fees. So this would be like crazy fees when you want to change cable service, where the cable company tries to charge you money, gym memberships, trying to charge you stuff because you can't get out of your contract. Moreover, they were talking about how some banks charge people like $30 for overdraft fees, like ludicrous amount of money. And so this is actually pretty interesting. New regulation proposed by Biden administration would limit overdraft fees at big banks to as low as $3, right? $3. So if this kind of thing goes through, this really hurts the banking system. Of course, my personal opinion on this stuff is I think banks price gouge and fee gouge poor people all the time. I think it's a real problem. Myself, I tend to do banking on the internet. However, this is very real. For people who tend to be more poor, less technology apt, they're more likely to go to the in-person banks. And when you go in person, you're going to pay more fees. It's just reality, right? Because it costs money to have a bricks and mortar kind of place. And if no one regulating said fees, you can charge people like ludicrous amount of money, and like $30 late fee, $30 overdraft fee, $30 because we don't like you fee. So cutting from 30 to these fees to like $3 would really eat into their profits. So we'll see how this goes. For any politician to go against banks and Wall Street is pretty risky. Because obviously that hurts them, and the big money, picks a candidate. Lately, the headlines I've been seeing is that Wall Street has been supporting Haley. I'm just telling you the headlines, but so we'll see. It's tough to do this. So I personally would be for this, limiting the amount you could fee someone, but we'll see if it goes through or not. Moreover, talking about Wall Street pressures and stuff like that. If you read the headlines here, markets want rate cuts faster and sooner, but the Fed is pushing back. And it's been the last, week or so, something like that, where I've noticed Fed officials. It was Bostic the other day, and there was another guy who came out today, and basically just saying, hey, we're watching the data. Inflation is cooling, but it's not, something that we can just cut right away. We want to see, consecutive months of lower inflation, et cetera. And understand too, there's good rate cuts and bad rate cuts. So the basic gist would be, if say the market, not market, but let's say the economy like slows like crazy, and suddenly like everyone's like out of a job, and all these bad things are happening, and you're cutting rates to try to stimulate growth because nothing's happening. That's not necessarily a good rate cut, if you guys understand what I'm saying here. And then the other issue is like, okay, if you cut too early and inflation is not yet under control, and then it creeps back up, like, oh crap, what do we do now? If we start raising or whatever, it looks like we don't know what the heck we're doing. So my opinion, the Fed should just stand pat at where it's at now, and not succumb to pressure of Wall Street. However, this is an election year, and you never know what's going to happen with these kind of things, because there are always political pressures there. They're not supposed to be political, but this is just the reality of how the world works. Moreover, talking about the reality of how the world works, it's pretty funny because if you've been watching, the big news media outlets, et cetera, and then all the fund managers and stuff, everyone's telling you that it's going to have this crazy bull market and everything's going to be fantastic and we're all going to make tons of money. And moreover, ARK Invest, but it's not just ARK, but many of the Wall Street people have been pushing this Bitcoin ETF. And I thought this one was pretty funny. The headline: Cathie Wood's ARK buys its own Bitcoin ETF. So, when in doubt, if you can't sell your stuff to other people, buy it yourself to try to pump it up. And we'll see if people go for this thing. I'm not into this stuff whatsoever. Never have been and never will be. And no matter how much you guys try to tell me, oh, Chris, you're so stupid, you don't understand Bitcoin. Trust me, guys. I know exactly what it is. It's not for me. And but hey, you do what you want to do. I just point out the headlines though that looks like the ARK Invest is pumping themselves up, because when in doubt, that I guess that works. There's an interesting thing though that going on around the markets, to where like certain indicators show what part of the cycle that we're in. As I told you guys, we go through cycles, ups and downs and stuff like that. This is actually a couple of headlines I'm going to show you guys. Really, I think tell also a full story, to where honestly our most I guess successful company, Apple, most valuable, actually not most valuable. I think Microsoft went ahead of Apple just recently. That I think Microsoft's the number one company in the world kind of thing at the moment in terms of market cap, because Apple's been dipping. And it's interesting because it looks like Apple actually lost a case. That usually doesn't happen for these kind of companies. I mean, they got all the money, they can get all the best lawyers, they got all the influence everywhere, right? I mean, it's Apple. Come on, you guys know this. But they had an issue with their watch where one company accused Apple of basically taking their tech, and the company's like, hey, we got a patent on this. Was it blood oxygen thing on your watch? They initially, the courts initially said, Apple, you can't sell this stuff until we figure out this problem, and then they went back again, and now it's like, I guess they can't sell it again. So this is actually very interesting because it relates to another story which I saw it about a month ago, but I wasn't sure what to make of it. But it's coming out again, meaning that I think these rumors are likely have some teeth to it. I'll read it to you guys. Apple to face U.S. antitrust lawsuit as soon as March. Now, the early things that I read about this was basically saying that antitrust, meaning that Apple makes it so all of the devices communicate to each other, but not to others. So, for example, you could design your watch to like only communicate with iPhone, but not work with Samsung or LG or Motorola, Nokia, whatever. Like not work with other phones, not work with PC computers, and you could do that with your iMessage stuff. Like, and the thing is like if you're making an ecosystem that only works with your own products, is that a monopoly? Or is that an antitrust kind of thing? Are you something that we should be concerned about? Apple would make the case that, hey, when we design our products to only work with other Apple products, that makes our ecosystem stronger and better for the consumer. I'll let you guys decide on that one. It's an interesting one, right? So again, the argument is, does Apple have a right to make products that only work with their ecosystem, right? Or will they be required to open up their ecosystem to other things? And I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, and this came up with Microsoft years ago, Microsoft Word had the dot doc, right? The docs, and or you could talk PPT or all the file formats. And the question would be is like, should Microsoft be required to have their file formats be accessible to other software companies? This was an issue back when I was in college and in high school, and I remember hearing about this stuff because this idea of open source or open file formats is massive for these kind of companies, right? Because like if you make your file format proprietary, then other companies can't do it. I remember there was a time when Adobe had like a monopoly on PDFs. like if you think about that, how crazy that is like today. But back then that was a thing. So I'll be curious Apple's arguments for keeping their sort of proprietary ecosystem kind of intact. But this will be a big issue in March. So I think a couple of these stories are huge. Like I was saying, guys, if you see the full story of kind of what's going on in our markets, our business, our freaking planes don't work, right, et cetera, it just kind of shows we're having a slowdown, and we're probably at that part of the cycle where things will change. I think Elon Musk has been signaling he's either going to leave Tesla or something. I mean, we talk about this on the channel, and then I do separate videos on Musk. But I mean, if you read these headlines, Musk demands bigger stake in Tesla as price for AI work. And I mentioned it before when he like tweeted out the thing talking about, hey, I could just go somewhere else and do my AI stuff. And then he's been demanding 25% voting and all these things. And the writing's on the wall. The guy is getting old. It's just reality. Time catches up with you. It's something that we all face. The other thing too is kind of interesting. Someone wrote in the comment, and that, guys, I always appreciate your comments. I read through everything, and we have some really smart people in the community. So hey, if you're watching this channel, you're in the right community. But someone pointed out that many of the pumpers are abandoning ship on the Tesla because it's hard to get a younger audience to adore Elon, because he's now a middle-aged, overweight guy who says crazy things on social media. And it's funny when someone mentions it that way, it's like, it makes perfect sense. Like if I'm just a young kid, and yes, there's young kids out there who still like Elon, but if I'm just getting into the game now and I never heard of this guy before, and like you tune in and he's like this ranting lunatic and he's overweight and not that cool anymore. He's not young and cool, And from Elon's point of view, I think he's thinking I need to get my payday while the money's still there. Moreover, this definitely relates to the Elon story. This happened a couple weeks ago. Read the headline here. Zuckerberg sold nearly $500 million of Meta stock in the last 2 months, right? So I always point this kind of stuff out. Don't pay too much attention to what people say. look at what people do. Like, why is Zuckerberg selling his stock, right? Is he looking to get out as well? And like I said, I don't think this is crazy stuff to say. Is like, don't necessarily pay attention to what people say, but look at what they do. So anyway, speaking of that, there's no way to play this headline down. Lincoln stranded after Boeing 737 breaks down at Davos trip. So, don't look at what Boeing says. Look at what Boeing does. Boeing breaks. So anyway, I'll leave you with that. And I do appreciate all the time hanging out every day. And I'll catch you in the next video.